Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Harman, and also Mr. Ambassador, all of the commissioners and good staff for the work you've done here. Mr. Ambassador, nuclear deterrence is the foundation. It is the bedrock on which our national security rests, and I understand that the Commission did not seek to replicate that work that came out of the Strategic Posture Commission, but it does highlight the importance of deterrence, strategic deterrence, in view of China's development, Russia's aggression, on and on. As you considered the strategic elements of the national security policy for us, can you explain to this committee the role that nuclear modernization plays in the NDS Commission's proposed multiple theater force construct?
Nuclear deterrence, Senator Fischer, is is the fundament on which everything else is built in terms of our national security. It's operating every day. It's not visible to American citizens, but the fact of our nuclear deterrent force, all three legs of the triad, being available is the most powerful deterrent that we have to conflict. It's not sufficient, but it is the absolute basis. And we really, I think, agreed with the conclusion our colleagues on the Strategic Posture Commission reached, which is that we have to move forward with alacrity on all the elements of modernization of the nuclear triad. That's the GBSD Sentinel program, that is the B-21, that is the Ohio replacement class. All of those things have to be accomplished, and there are problems in some. One of the reasons we highlighted education is that some of the problems that GBSD are running into has to do with lack of skilled workers to be able to pour the kind of special reinforced concrete that you need for the new silos for missiles, the new control systems for missiles. We lack welders in the submarine industrial base, as Senator Wicker knows well. So there's a lot that has to be done across the board in order to move forward with nuclear modernization, but it is absolutely fundamental to our ability to deter aggression against our allies and, of course, against the homeland.
Thank you. And Representative, I really appreciated your comments on the workforce and the need we have for that, for a national strategy, and to be able to work with Senator King on a bill that we introduced, that we were able to get some of those important factors into the NDAA so that we can address them and hopefully continue to grow what we need and meet those needs quickly. Ambassador, based on the Commission's work, what do you think are the biggest barriers that we are going to face as a country to achieving that multiple theater force construct? And Representative, I'd like to hear your opinion on that as well.
Well, the first, Senator Fischer, to your question, the force right now is too small, and so we have to grow the force, and that's in the face of the recruiting challenges that we've highlighted in the report that the Army in particular, but also the Navy and the Air Force have faced.
And why, and I'm going to interrupt you.
Please.
Why is it too small? Can you explain, in this setting, the threats that we are facing when we look at the adversaries that we face and how that has changed over the last decade?
It's too small in part because the department was sizing itself for one conflict. But if you have to be present in 3 theaters, as we are now, we've got conflicts in 2 theaters now. If we have a third conflict in a third theater, it's going to require a lot more forces. People talk, for instance, about the Indo-Pacific being largely a Navy and Air Force fight. That's correct, but the logistics that support the Navy and the Air Force will largely be manned by the Army. And so we have to have an Army that is sufficiently large that it can operate in all of these places potentially simultaneously. Because honestly, it is very hard to imagine today a conflict in the Indo-Pacific that doesn't become a global conflict very quickly. Someone asked earlier in the hearing about cooperation between Russia and China. The last time I testified before this committee was 2 years ago about the so-called three-body problem, Russia, China being both nuclear peers of the United States. And one of the criticisms that was leveled at my colleague Frank Miller and me was that, well, there's no evidence that Russia and China are collaborating in the nuclear area. Well, we just saw them flying strategic bombers together, up near Alaska. So, I don't know what more evidence you want that they're beginning to collaborate in that strategic area.
If I could just add a few things. First of all, on the nuclear triad and the nuclear posture review, Senator Kyle is a dear friend of ours. He did great service in the Senate and writing that report. And we talked about whether we should, in some ways, overlap some of his recommendations, but we decided they were so good they should stand alone. So it's not that we don't care, it's just that we recognize good work. And add to that, though, that our nuclear agreements that were so important over recent years, especially the heroic work that President Reagan did, don't include China. And a number of them have lapsed, and that is a truly dangerous situation, especially when rogue states like North Korea and Iran are part of the nuclear game now, and there could be a nuclear arms race in the Middle East or in Asia also. So just would point that out. In terms of workforce and why is it small? Well, one thing we have not done, and we mentioned this, is embrace the tech sector adequately. Future wars are not going to be fought the old way with vulnerable big platforms. They're going to be fought with more software, less hardware, more software. Not to diminish hardware, but we need both. In fact, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs was at the Aspen Security Forum last week. Some of us were there. Senator Sullivan was there. And he said, DOD is not a hardware department. Right. It's not, or if it is, it should not be a hardware department. So not only do we need more people, but we need different skills. And we need people who understand the tech base. And in fact, we have said that the business model of the Pentagon ought to move to embrace the business model of the tech sector, where failure sometimes is important so that you can improve things. And just want to comment to a prior question. Some of us were in Ukraine looking at how they produce goods, including drones and tanks, and they have been much more innovative than we have, and there are lessons to learn there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Fischer.